Okay, so this video is going to be all about how to get the art that you've made for your UI into your UE4 games. So in here I've got a widget, and you should have seen how to create one of these. I've got a health bar for my character, score, lives, and what weapon he's currently holding. If I play the game, this one's just a simple twin stick shooter, and if the enemy sees me, they start to shoot me, my health goes down, I can pick up a gun, and the ammo is going down in the default name, and then it updates the name to worse gun with a different amount of ammo, and I can kill an enemy and I get some score. Pick up health, and now more enemies can attack me, and I should be able to get more score. So the UI functions. Thinking about the graph that we've got right now, so to get let's say the health bar, all we have to do is create a variable in your widget that references your hero character. Grab that, grab his health variable, divide it by 100, and put it into this return value here. To do that, you need to bind it to an event. So it will say create binding, and then you'll get something like that. So if I were to remove this binding right now, if I play, this no longer works. But I am still taking damage, just this UI is not telling me. So I could let's create a new binding, and this is what we'll get. So I'll get that, and then is health. And the reason why we are dividing the health by 100 is to turn this value into something that is readable as it goes from 0 to 1, and we have 100 health. So if we also just hooking in is valid. The is valid node isn't quite necessary for this project, but it just, there we go, it just helps with some debugging. But just these nodes here will do the job for you. Whereas if we just put the health in there right now, when we start to take damage, you can see it's filled it up, but we can just convert in 100 health to be so when you have 100 health it is 1, and when you have 99 health it is 0.99. So that's how you can get this 0 to 1. Yeah. The same with the score is so if we've got the text and it's bound to a variable. If I go into this, get the game mode, get the score, and then put it into here. So updating variables on here to the variables inside of your characters. So if I were to have a look at the hero character, in here we have health variables, and these will be provided to you with your framework as well. There will be a health variable, there will be a score variable, and you just need to cast to the correct things, and there will be a weapon variable as well. So if I go into Diner, click here, and it should be here as well. So the is valid. Technically, you could skip these, but getting the hero, getting the active weapon, getting its ammo, and that gets you those, and then this one gets you the actual weapon. and update the weapon name to that. So that's how the blueprint works. But this is all default Unreal Engine style now, and to get your own sort of look on it. So if you wanted to create your own custom UI, we're going to have to go into Photoshop. So if I open up Photoshop, and I've just created a 1080 canvas, so because that's the screen that we're going to be playing on. So I know if I created a UI element that was that big, it's going to be that big on the screen. And then I've just given it a gradient background just so I can see it, and I can turn it off and on when I want to see what the UI looks like. So to create a button for your main menus, what I'm going to do is create a really simple one first and just show you the process. So I can just fill this in with, I'm just going to fill it in with black, and I'm going to do that on a separate layer as well. So it's on its own layer, yeah. So I'm not going to do much more to this other than just keep it, just keep it that shape right now. And I'm going to go into something called blending options. So I've right clicked on here and went to the top to blending options. And what this gives us is these options here. Mine's got stroking 3 times, but your one won't do. I just need to, should be able to drag these onto the bin. No, I've created another one. There we go. If you do have multiple ones, if you've clicked this plus a couple too many times, you can just click the bin. So first thing, let's try color overlay. So now I can change the color of it. So let's give a blue color. And actually, let's have a look at some gradients as well. So pick that one. So because this gradient overlay is below color overlay, it's the same sort of system. The color overlay overwrites it. So but I'm sure there's a way of moving these up and down, but I think only when they're of the same type. So if I had this one, I could move it above here. If you wanted to maybe do a blend between 2 types of gradient, and I'm going to say, yeah, I do. And then I could tint it further with this, but I don't want to do that. So I've changed the colour of my button now quite quickly. I could put on a pattern on it as well. Again, the gradient is above it, so I can't see the pattern. But if I turn these off and then change the opacity, there we go. Drop these down just slightly. There we go. Now we can pick something that looks like stripes. There we go. Yeah. Now outer glow sort of divers out from the edge, and you can change the opacity. Noise makes it scatter. I would just suggest playing with these to get the looks that you want. But you can do all sorts with this. And I'm going to make something quite ugly. There we go. Drop shadow. Again, change the angle. Just tweaking those. You can do satin, which will give it a sort of so you can see the reflections going on here. This is good for when you want to make something that looks metallic, and usually is good coupled with something like bevel and emboss. So if I put in this, you can start to see. Now this is a pillow emboss, so it's affecting the outside. If I did an outer bevel, it only affects the outside. Inner bevel now only affects the inside. So I could change the direction. Change how sharp it is. I want it soft. And then I don't think I do one for satin. Stroke gives you an outline that you can change for thickness. And you can do it on the outside, inside, center, and change the opacity as well. And then you can do an inner shadow as well. And an inner glow. So there's a few settings in there to really quickly change the way that when you click OK, you've got that. Now if I were to make another button shape, I could copy this layer style and paste the layer style, and now it also looks like that. And this is now the next bit where layer styles get to be really powerful. Is I could get a brush or even an eraser, and I can just start changing the shape to be whatever I want. If that was the type of button that I wanted, I could have it. I can also start painting it in. So if you wanted something really, really stylized, you've got the capability of doing that with blending options. And then you could go into here, you could do color overlay, we could make that dark red, and change the contour, this to be a bit more wobbly, give it a bit of texture. And you can start seeing how quickly you can start make different styles of button. You could also, if you wanted to be a bit more precise, you could get the marquee tool, right click it, you could transform the selection and start positioning it over somewhere. Say we wanted just slice out of there, press enter to confirm that transform, and then delete on the layer that you want to delete. And now we've got a very precise little chunk cut out of there as well. As well, you could, if you wanted to do use spline to create shapes. Then close that off. Doesn't really matter. You can just now paste the layer style under there, and you've got that. And you can go back to here and use this arrow or direct path selection tool. Start moving these points around again. Get the exact shape that you want. for your button. So that's to how to create like really quick styles in here. I'm going to just turn off that one, and let's say we are for some reason happy with this button. The next thing to do, I would put it up in the corner here, and I would either use I would use probably the marquee tool, and use, so when you start highlighting over something, you get a little pink line when you are right over it. So if you zoom in, you should be able to see, so pink line for the edge here, but when I get right on the line here, at the base of the like pixels, you can see it's saying that I've got that exact bit cut. Now I want some shadow as well, so, and I can see the shadows there. This is what this can be useful for as well, for me to see where the shadow ends and begins. So it might be useful for me to just pull this out from the corner as well, because I was losing that information here. And then select a box over there, here. Press C on your keyboard to enter crop mode. Press enter and press enter again. Now I can turn this off, and now I've got a button that when at 100% I can see exactly what size it's going to be. And when I'm happy with that, I can export this out. Now, the thing to consider with having shadow on your buttons is that it's going to be based off where your mouse cursor is. When you are above anywhere that's got translucent information, it's going to start thinking you're above the button. This is something to consider as well if you're going to have drop shadow in your buttons. I would probably advise against it, and just have an area like that for your buttons, so the selections can be more precise. But again, it's up to you. If you really need it for your artistic style, then just bear in mind about the precision of your buttons, that it might be selectable even though you're not hovered directly over it. But this would be a more preferred sort of crop for a UI element. So when you've got that, I would save it as, and then let's see, I will put it on my desktop, and so I'll put it on desktop, and I'm going to change it to be a PNG and call it button test. Save. Okay, so if I go back into here, I can import from my desktop, and button test. There we go. Now, if I open up that, you can see I've got that in here now, and that looks all fine to me as well. So let me double check that that works correctly. So I can go into a widget, create a new one, add a button, and then I will go into style, and this style is where you change the style of all your buttons. So I'm going to go in there, and it is called button test. So if I start typing that in there, you can see it's put it in there, but it looks really janky. Now I could try and position it until it looks kind of okay, or I could stop drawing it as a box and draw it as an image, and now it doesn't look janky. But the other thing that I need to remember is that the size of this now obviously is distorting the picture. So I need to make sure that I know the resolution of the image, and that information should be here. There we go, imported as 401 by 118. So if we go in here, change this to 411, and then 118, 401, 118. There we go. So now that won't have any issue with stretching or pixelation. You could also make these at a 4 times resolution, and that would be the practice if you knew your game was going to be at 4K and also 1080p, so then it can be down-resed for the 1080p ones. So that would be double resolution even, sorry. But bearing that in mind, so we've got that positioned. Now, let's see if we can get this to draw on screen, because what we want is, if I just go into the mode, event begin play, create widget, that class, new widget blueprint, add to screen, set UI mode only, set show mouse, turn off context sensitive for that one, and enable that to be true. Widget to focus, this widget, player controller 1, or 0 even. There we go. Yeah, player controller 0, and that should be okay. So now, there we go. Right, and so what this should do now, should essentially put us into like a pause mode. But now you can see if I move this over to somewhere else. Now, the button's on the screen, great, fantastic, but when we hover over, it changes into something else. And then when we press it, also changes into something else. And this is the next thing that you need to worry or consider with all of your buttons, is that it is not just the normal style that you need to make. You need to make a hovered version and a pressed version, because buttons are interacted with, and a way of feeding back to players is that they have multiple versions. And whether that is literally just you going into here and going to the gradient overlay maybe and saying that it's a little darker when pressed, and then exporting that out, putting it into here and setting it as that. But whatever you set it as is what it will change to when pressed. Okay, so that's something as well to consider. The other thing to consider is text. So how to get, so if I were to add text to this, and then I wanted it, let's say, aligned to the right side here, and I was like, this is quite a boring text. So you should be able to go on to something like DaFont and have a look at a text that you like. Let's pick this one, and we are going to download this, and you'll get a zip file, and it's just in my downloads here. If I go into there, and I want this TTF file, so I'm going to drag that, and hopefully it should, I might need to close the game first, that's probably a good idea. And what I'm going to do, just to make sure that this works, is just extract this as well. So if I extract to Springfield 2, go into here and just drag that hopefully. There we go. Drag that onto here. Create a new font asset. Yes, all. And now we've got a font inside of Unreal. And we can go into here, go onto here, and go to font and change it from Roboto to Springfield, and increase that and to whatever you think looks good. And I'll just pick that. You can change the color of it, and you can also do outline. Oh, and so depending on a font, I would, because it was quite a complex font, I don't think Unreal liked that, so let's just send and restart. But while we're here, I want to talk about another thing about for when you're designing your buttons, and that is to look into something called 9-slice scaling. So 9-slice scaling is when you're designing, let's say this was your button. This could be or a container. The way this has been designed means that you can stretch it vertically and horizontally, and it will never change its shape. So if I to show you what I mean by that, let's say save the image and put it into here, and let's give ourselves a larger canvas, and let's move that away. So if I were to grab this, let's cut it out. Again, I need to rasterize the layer first, so now I can cut it out. So if I moved this over here and then just grabbed this section here, I can just stretch this out as long as I want, and as long as I can use a mouse properly. Right, and then the next bit that I want is this bit. So if I grab that, and now I've changed the size of the box very fast. If you are more competent at using a mouse than me, you should be able to do it even faster. So again, move that down, and then stretch that. Just realign those. So the way it works, just to show you, you can do some research into this 9-slice scaling. As long as your corners are separate to this and this to the center, and that is how you should be designing the borders to your buttons. You won't get any distortion. So if you were to have a look at different style sheets, so let's say something like this, and let's see if we can zoom into one of these. And this is what I want you to do when I say make a style sheet for your game. It's like lay out the buttons and the dials and stuff like this. Like going on Pinterest, you can see all of the different ones that they've laid out. But let's see if we can get, there we go, close to this. So this one, I mean, it's got some shading in here and this tiling pattern, but it's so you could maybe stretch it wide ways and then repeat the pattern over and over again. Same with this one. Obviously the text is embedded in it. I would avoid doing that unless you want a very particular style for pressed It does allow you to do blending options on the writing as well, so that's something to consider. But then you'll have to do your text in Photoshop for each button variation. But looking at all of these, thinking about, are they 9-slice scalable? This one is a nice one. It is, so you could take this middle section and stretch it out, and then you just have to repeat these lines again. You just need to make sure that the insides. So if we go back to let's see, Unreal Engine. So it talks about it here in the UMG best practices. Having something like this stops this bit from being now 9-slice scaling, because they're unique. Whereas if you'd just create a corner and then a top, you can rotate that top and to either side, use that corner to create all the other corners, and you can cut your work in half basically. And because it's a tiling pattern in the middle, rather than a flat colour, again, it's going to be hard to duplicate. It depends really on the style that you want to go for, but it is something to be aware of for when creating. I would recommend going onto the UMG UI Designer User Guide and having a look at all of these. You can find out lots of information here about all the different things when using UMG to create user interfaces. So that pretty much covers most of what you need to know for to complete the task that you've got. I will be going over doing an overview of the side scroller framework that you've been provided, but other than that, if you've got any questions, just let me know.